everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Review Show. My name is John, and I told you guys last week that this show would be taking a slight hiatus so I could do some more 4K Blu-ray reviews. Well, unfortunately, a lot of those 4K Blu-rays haven't arrived, so I don't want to leave you guys hanging without a video, so I decided, you know what, I saw a couple of movies, and I also decided to review a classic 4K Blu-ray, and that 4K Blu-ray is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. We'll be talking about that Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray that came out a couple of years ago, and we'll also be talking about Saturday Night, the latest film from Jason Reitman, and we'll also be talking about Woman of the Hour that just came out this last week on Netflix. That is the first directorial film by Anna Kendrick, who also stars in that film. And we'll actually start it off with Women of the Hour, which again is the directorial debut of Anna Kendrick, and she also stars in it. And I love Anna Kendrick. She is a great underrated actress. Some of her best films are Up in the Air. She's great in this film called A Simple Favor, which also stars Blake Lively, that is actually getting a sequel. Great movie theater experience with that one. Just, you know, one of those times where it's like, me and Faith wanted to go see a movie, and we just popped into A Simple Favor, and we ended up loving that movie, and apparently a lot of other people did too. That's why it's getting a sequel. She was also great in The Accountant, another movie I didn't expect to get a sequel that is getting a sequel. So she's always been great, and that's one person I didn't expect to become a director, but she really did, and you can clearly see in watching this film that she loves movies herself, because there's a lot of film references in it, and just the way it's shot is also, you could just tell that Anna Kendrick must be a film fan. Now, she didn't write this movie. It was actually written by Ian McDonald, and this movie is actually a true story, which blew my mind, because this is a serial killer movie. This is a true story about a serial killer who appeared on The Dating Game in 1978. That serial killer's name is Rodney Alcala, who was convicted of 8 murders, but they said could have been up to 130 murders in the 1970s. And throughout his murder spree, just in 1978, the guy decides to pop on The Dating Game, which is, you know, a girl. She's the bachelorette. She's gonna interview essentially 3 possible contestants to date her. In case you don't know what The Dating Game is, they can't see her, and, you know, they can only see each other, so they're over there talking. One of these guys is that serial killer, and he ends up winning the goddamn dating game, which is incredible. Again, this is a true story, so I'm not spoiling anything here. I won't tell you exactly how this movie ends, but the thing is it is a true story, so they have to find a creative way to show how this serial killer is captured, because we do end up knowing, like, you know, obviously this guy didn't get away with it. So they have to find a creative way to edit this movie so that it's very interesting, and it's edited very, very well. It's also shot very well, which is very, very surprising for a movie like this, because a lot of Netflix movies, you know, they all kind of have that same look to it, which, you know, this movie does kind of have that, but it also has a very creative look to it because it takes place in the 1970s. So I saw 2 movies this week that take place in the 1970s, and both of them, I think, captured the 1970s in obviously very different ways, but still captured the look and tone and the feel of the 1970s, because there's always a fine line you can walk where it becomes like cosplaying, you know, it feels like these people aren't really people playing 1970s characters. It feels like people dressing up. Not the case with both Saturday Night and Women of the Hour. I think they did a great job with capturing that look and feel in the 1970s. And again, because it's a movie about a serial killer, we see a lot of those killings on screen, and I didn't expect that. I thought it was going to be a much more upbeat movie, but it is pretty dark throughout. I think it almost feels like Zodiac at certain moments. You know, with the way we're seeing these things actually happen, it gets really dark and very brutal, especially in the 3rd act. And that's my one issue with this movie, is the pacing of it. I feel like it had some times where it was paced very well, and then it would slow down, and I felt like it would slow down a little bit too much, especially in the 3rd act. And one thing that a lot of actors who become directors struggle with is they don't really know when to cut. They let the actors just go a little bit too long, because they're an actor themselves, so they want to let the actors act. And I also feel like that ends up in the editing bay, even though they're not the editor. I feel like, you know, they're sitting there with the editor, and they want to let scenes just go a little bit too long, and I think that this movie struggles with that at moments. But overall, it's still a very well done movie. I really enjoyed it. All of the performances are done really well, and not just by Anna Kendrick, but by other actors who appear in this movie also, such as Daniel Zavato, who plays that serial killer in this movie. He did a great job. He is haunting in this movie, and it's funny because I was like, who is this guy from? And I recognized him from It Follows, which, you know, I love that movie as well. So 10 years later, he pops up in this movie. One thing that's funny about this movie is it just came out on Netflix this week, and it had its original premiere over a year ago, I think September 1st, 2023 at TIFF. It's crazy that this movie took so long to get released. I think it got released at the perfect time of year, but it's crazy how that works. You have to start promoting it well down the line, because I guess Netflix picked it up and they just couldn't find a place in a release schedule for it. But, oh man, it's a really good movie. It's not a movie that I absolutely love, but if you're at home one night and you want to watch a good, well-made movie, check this one out. I would give it an 8 out of 10. You know, nothing that knocked my socks off, but still a very good time. and I want to see more from Anna Kendrick. Hopefully this isn't one and done for her as far as being a director goes. And the other new movie I saw this week that came out a couple weeks ago is Saturday Night. And this movie had its original premiere at Telluride, then it finally came to theaters on September 27th. I finally caught up to it. And there wasn't many people in the theater. Unfortunately, this movie only has made $7 million at the box office on a $25 to $30 million budget. And this one is directed by Jason Reitman. And I assume this is why he didn't direct Ghostbusters Frozen Empire and why he's only a producer on it, because he was too busy directing this movie. And this movie just blows Ghostbusters Frozen Empire out of the water. And man, it is one of my favorite movies of the year. And actually, it is my favorite movie of 2024. I had an absolute blast with this movie. And this is about the 90 minutes leading up to the very first episode of Saturday Night Live in its 50th season this year, so we're going all the way back to the beginning, and apparently this is very, very true and very accurate for what happened in those 90 minutes leading up to Saturday Night Live. And if that is really true, man, what a crazy time. And oh my god, imagine being these actors and producers and just people working on the show leading up to it. And a lot of the stuff I didn't know, and I don't want to spoil too much of the movie itself because this is what I really want people to go out and see, even though, again, it's a true story. Stuff that I really didn't know going into this movie. And Lorne Michaels, the producer, the creator of Saturday Night Live, he is played by in this movie Gabriel LaBelle, who actually played the filmmaker in The Fabelmans, the movie about Steven Spielberg's life. So he's played Steven Spielberg and Lorne Michaels in 2 movies. Well, that's pretty damn incredible. He does a great job in this movie. Also appearing as Dick Ebersol, that name always rings a bell for me because that's also one of the people who really helped WWE get off the ground, take the WWF in the 1980s to that next big level, like Saturday Night's Main Event. So I recognize that name, Dick Ebersol, and he's played in this movie by Cooper Hoffman, Philip Seymour Hoffman's son, who last time I saw him was in Licorice Pizza, and he has such a resemblance to Philip Seymour Hoffman. It freaks me out, but he's a great actor just like his dad as well, and he is fantastic in this movie. J.K. Simmons stands out as well in this movie. He has one part where he's like dancing and he's like line dancing. He's got these like looks on his face. He's wearing a ridiculous wig. I absolutely love that. We obviously have other actors portraying actors and comedians who appeared on the show. So somebody's going to be playing Jim Belushi. Someone's playing Dan Aykroyd. Someone's playing Gil Radner. Like all of this is being done in this movie, and all of those impressions are done very, very, very well. This is really an actor's showcase, and it's moving along at such a brisk pace, at a very fast pace. No moment is ever wasted. Those 90 minutes leading up to it, they have tension. You know, we have to, obviously we know how this ends. SNL's been on for 50 years, but there's a lot of tension. Is it going to go to air, or is it not going to go to air? Are we going to get actors to sign contracts, or are they not going to sign contracts? And like I was saying earlier, this movie is shot beautifully. It doesn't feel like people cosplaying in the 1970s. It really feels like these could have been people in the 1970s. And obviously in the back of your head, you're like, I know what Chevy Chase looks like. And a lot of time these actors might not look like the ones they're playing, but they got the voices down very well, especially with Chevy Chase and Dan Aykroyd. The actor playing Jim Belushi does a fantastic job as well. I mean, you know, again, in your head, you're comparing them, and you still somehow fall into the movie, and the movie gets its hooks into you, and you're so entertained by it. The movie just flies by at such a quick rate that I wanted to go right back in and watch it again. My wife was with me, and she didn't enjoy it that much, but I still really enjoyed it. I had an absolute blast. I can't wait to get this one. I assume because of the amount of money it's made, and this one might be an awards darling. It might end up having some, and I could see it getting a lot of nominations, especially in the Best Picture category and for Best Director, because the direction is very, very well done. I don't know if the actors will get nominations because it's very big. It's a very big ensemble cast. Other than the actor playing Lorne Michaels, you know, everybody else is popping up in little moments. Another one I want to talk about is Nicholas Braun, who plays Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman. Perfect casting for both. Who would have thought? Nick Braun is just a great actor. What's his name? Nicholas Braun. Just a great actor, and I love seeing him pop up because he's like seems like a weird dude. So of course he's gonna play guys like Jim Henson and Andy Kaufman just perfectly. I mean, I can go on and on about this movie. Just go out and see Saturday Night. I know people are going out and seeing movies like Smile 2 and Terrifier 3, movies that also deserve your support, but not a lot of people going out and seeing Saturday Night, and these are the movies that I absolutely love, and that's why it's my favorite movie of the year. Yes, I have loved movies like Maxine and Longlegs, great horror movies. They're going to be in my top 5, top 10 at the end of the year, but this movie, right in my wheelhouse, and it's just one I absolutely love, so I can highly recommend it. I'm giving this one a 10 out of 10. For me, best film of 2024. check this one out if you haven't seen it. And the last movie we're going to talk about because it is spooky season is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers, which came out in 1988. It's called The Return of Michael Myers because Michael Myers hadn't been seen since Halloween 2. We thought he was dead, and Halloween 3, The Season of the Witch, came out 1 year later, and this was supposed to be the next big step in the Halloween franchise. Directed by Tommy Lee Wallace, we're going to make the Halloween franchise an anthology series where every movie tells a different tale, done by Deborah Hill and John Carpenter, about the season of Halloween. Season of the Witch was supposed to be the first of those. Of course, people were pissed and upset it didn't have Michael Myers in it, and we ended right there. It was done, and then a few years later, 6 years down the line, they said, we got to get Michael back, and that's exactly what we're going to do with The Return of Michael Myers. And this movie feels exactly like the original one. It's almost the same story, especially in the beginning of this movie, where Michael is getting transferred. This is when we find out he didn't die in that fire, and neither did Dr. Loomis, and we're bringing back Donald Pleasance for this one. And this is one of the most underrated films in the Halloween franchise. I personally love this movie. I put it in my top 5. This is also the one that feels the most like autumn, the most like fall, and the most like spooky season, especially with those opening credits. You know, that really captures Halloween so well, even better than the original one. You got to remember, the original one filmed in California. They had like one bag of leaves. That's why the grass looks so green. It never really looked like Haddonfield. But the thing is, you do get attached to that house and everything. And one thing about this movie is it feels like a very different Haddonfield than it does in the first 2 Halloween movies. They don't feel like the same city. And for a lot of people, that might take them out of it, especially if you're looking at the mask. This one has the worst mask in the franchise. It's ridiculous. It's still crazy to me that they lost the mask from the first one, but at least this one, we see him taking it from the drugstore, so we know why he took this mask, and we can understand it. And then another thing about this movie, because it's 1988, it does feel like the most 80s of the Halloween movies, even though Halloween 2 and Season of the Witch take place in the 1980s as well. You know, those are very early in the 1980s, so it almost feels like a 1970s hangover with the clothes and everything. No, this is very much a 1980s movie. Just look at all the big hair in it, the pacing. You know, you can tell some cocaine was involved, how fast everything is moving along, how everything is a little bit over the top, all things that I absolutely love. And clearly this movie also had an inspiration on Halloween Kills. You know how the town is like, that's it. You know what? Someone's got to finally take this motherfucker Michael down, and it's going to be us. You know, no chanting evil dies tonight or anything, but they're going to get in their trucks and they're going to hunt this guy down. Which also leads directly into Halloween 5, which blows my mind because Halloween 5 is absolutely atrocious, and I love this movie, and I thought, yeah, they ended it well. Again, Michael somehow survives, and in Halloween 5, a guy's been taking care of him in his, like, shed or whatever, that he's surprised when Michael wakes up and kills him. It's like, you've been harboring a serial killer. What did you think was going to happen? He's going to wake up and show you some love? No, and that leads right into Halloween 5, which is atrocious. And it's a shame because this one is so well done. I really enjoyed the story of this one, really leaning more into the family of Michael. Danielle Harris plays the niece of Michael, Jamie Lee Curtis's daughter, and that's another thing about the Halloween franchise. There are so many different timelines, so this is really where the first veering is, because this one, you know, the most recent trilogy, we acknowledge Halloween 1, but we erase everything after. This one's Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and then we end up with Halloween 4, 5, and 6, and then eventually there's another timeline that's Halloween 1, Halloween 2, then Halloween H2O. So there's so many different timelines with this one. So this is the one that's really leaning into Jamie Lee Curtis was Michael's sister, had a daughter. She's orphaned now because Jamie Lee Curtis is dead, so that's it. She's living with her aunt and uncle. You know, she's becoming one of the main characters in the movie, and just like in the original one, Michael's hunting people down one by one, and we get some very violent 1980s kills in here. Love this movie for it. A lot like Jason Lives, I would say, which is really funny because a lot like Jason Lives, the movie is really good, and it's followed up by one of the worst movies in the franchise. So it's just like, I guess people didn't appreciate these movies at the time, and they just wanted to crank them out for money, which is really unfortunate because that's how we had all these continuity errors and everything like that. It's just people like, people just go to these movies, they're just junk horror movies, we'll make some quick money on it. It's a shame because a movie like this, they could have continued in the very same direction that they were going with this one. Instead, they got too deep into the Michael lore, and by the time we get to the Curse of Michael Myers, everything was just off the rails to where we had to correct it, and that's why we end up with H2O. But still, if you watch Halloween 4 in a bubble, I know there's a lot of other great YouTube creators out there who love this movie, and it definitely deserves it. And a couple years ago, we got this movie on 4K Blu-ray, which I upgraded from here in this nice, also Scream Factory Halloween pack that has all the movies in it, but I only picked up a few of these on 4K Blu-ray. I didn't just pick up Halloween 4. I picked up Halloween 1, Halloween 2, and Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. I didn't get 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, God forbid, because I didn't get all those. Don't love those movies. It stopped with me with Halloween 4. And if you come underneath, you can have the alternate box art, so you can have the original movie poster, but you can also have it where it looks like this if you want to reverse it. It really comes down to how you feel about it. You come inside, you get one Blu-ray and one 4K Blu-ray, and that Blu-ray that's packed in here is different than the Blu-ray that's in this set. So if you watch them in order, it's a big upgrade difference from Blu-ray to Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray. And also that Blu-ray that's packed in there doesn't have any extras on there, so when you get to that Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray and you pop that Blu-ray in, that's when you're going to find all of your extras. There's 2 little making ofs, one that's about 16 minutes, the other one's about 25 minutes. There's about a 25-minute like locations thing where they're like looking at all the locations of the movie. Pretty damn cool. None of the stuff that's going to blow you away, but still, I really appreciated these extras, especially since my last Blu-ray didn't have them on there. I enjoyed them. Some of them are old, some of them are new, or at least new-ish. And then there's also like TV spots and a photo gallery, so nothing too crazy. It's Halloween 4, so I didn't expect there to be that much, but I really did appreciate what was in there. I like how the director and the writer acknowledged that, this is a back-to-basics kind of thing, because the movie does feel a lot like the original Halloween when you're watching it, and they seem to know that, hey, let's bring it back to what made people fall in love with Michael Myers. I'm glad they acknowledged that, and also there was a brand new Dolby Atmos track for this one, like there was for the original run of movies, because once we got to the last 3, which was, I believe, Curse of Michael Myers, H2O, and Resurrection, that came in that triple pack, those didn't have Dolby Atmos tracks, while the original 5 did, and it's a really good Dolby Atmos track, actually. I really did enjoy it. Definitely an upgrade from the previous audio if you were to check out that Blu-ray if you have it in that collection. Just atmospheric, which I really did appreciate. The score to this movie feels very 1980s, updating the Halloween theme. It plays very well throughout, no pops and clicks, so the audio for this is very good, and you can listen to that Dolby Atmos track on both the Blu-ray and 4K Blu-ray. All the audio tracks are on both discs, so I really appreciate them doing that. They don't always do that. Appreciated that Scream Factory went the extra mile for that. And now, what about the 4K visuals? There's an argument to be made that out of all the Halloween 4K Blu-rays we've gotten, this is the best looking one. It's hard to tell though if it's Season of the Witch or this one for me. They're both huge upgrades, even over the Blu-ray that's packed in here, because you get Dolby Vision and HDR10. It is definitely a pretty big, noticeable upgrade to the 4K Blu-ray, mainly in the brightness and the colors. And these are all things you expect with high dynamic range. You expect the colors to be fuller and denser. You expect it to hit those deep blacks. You expect them to maintain that film grain, and thankfully all of that is true when you go to this 4K Blu-ray. It's just everything looks so good while maintaining that look and feel of Halloween 4. It still feels like the 1980s. It still feels like Halloween night, like fall. I'm just so glad that they were able to still capture that, even with those opening credits having that font and that bright orange. Everything looks so good on the 4K Blu-ray. I think they did a great job cleaning this one up. Honestly, like I said, I think it might be the best one in the entire Halloween Scream Factory collection. And this is also one that a lot of people do cherish and think is a very underrated film, and I tend to agree with them. I really enjoy Halloween 4. One of the ones I have to watch every single spooky season. I always have to watch the original 4 Halloween movies, and then I'll always slip in Halloween Kills because I think that movie's fantastic and underrated as well. I don't know why a lot of people don't like Halloween Kills. I mean, I guess I know why, but it's no Halloween Ends or it's no Halloween Resurrection. It's still a damn good time. You get to see Big John and Little John in that one. Oh my god, it's a great one. Definitely check out Halloween Kills this season as well. But we're here talking Halloween 4, and how would I rate this Scream Factory 4K Blu-ray for Halloween 4? I would give it a pretty damn solid 9 out of 10. If there's something you got to pick up in this Shocktober sale from Scream Factory and you don't have Halloween 4, pick up Halloween 4 and give it another try. I think you'll really enjoy it. But that's going to do it here for us on another episode of the Let's Talk Review Show. I definitely know that this show will be taking a hiatus next week because we will have all those 4K Blu-rays in. So next week, this show won't be on, but it will be back in a couple weeks. And I really hope you guys enjoyed this show. And if you did, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. We also have channel memberships. So if you want to become a friend of the channel, or a producer like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin, or a channel director like Frank from Frank's Media Reviews and Mr. Smelly Potato, you can find all that information in the description below. But if you got no money to throw away, guys, don't worry about it all. We just hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.